second reader was born in Montenegro, former Yugoslavia, in 1972. He is a neurobiologist by training and a medical communications professional by occupation. His publications include 2 novels, The Life and Death of Milan Junak and American Sfumato. He lives in Evanston with his wife and their 2 sons. American Sfumato will be published in October 2019. That'll be exciting. By Chicago's Tortoise Books. Please welcome Vojislav Pejovic.
Thanks, everyone. Let me raise this a bit.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yes, it is true. The book is coming out in October, and you would be not faulted by assuming that I would be reading an excerpt from the said book. I won't. I have a couple of copies if there are some people who are that interested that I can sell you later, but this reading is actually about something else, something that played quite a big role in writing the book and keeps occupying me as the time goes on. And it's about 2 very unsavory characters in all of our lives. One is memory and the other is history. And I'm sure you've met them, and they are generally amenable to jokes like, memory and history walk into a bar, and one says to the other, it's not clear who all of a sudden is so dark in here. Thank you. So I actually wanted to, and they also make me think about the circumstances that memory and history create. Like they create these pockets where only certain types of artifacts, certain poetry, certain music is favored or even possible. And you call it taste, you call it fashion, regardless. So I wanted to kind of give you an overview of the past century, of the speck of land where I come from, which used to be called Yugoslavia, and now it's called 7 different names, through 5 poems. And I will begin with a poem from one of the actually greats from that period, and from that place, by the name of Miloš Crnjanski. That's him. So this was conceived of right at the end of World War I. So the former Great War. And he thought of this poem as he was stinking and bleeding in trenches of the Eastern Front, somewhere in what used to be Galicia. And interestingly enough, doesn't have anything to do with heroism or patriotism. It just has something to do with fantasizing about faraway lands. So, Sumatra by Miloš Crnjanski. We're carefree now, feathery and glowy. And think how tranquil and how snowy the south summits of Ural must be. And if in an evening still we lose someone whose pallor turned us sad, we'll know that somewhere there's a rill that runs so rosy in his stead. Love in a while, a morning far away, wraps our souls in an endless coil of silence of the bluest seas, from which grains of coral bubble red, just like the cherries from the homeland's soil. We wake at night and then smile kindly at the moon with our bows in stand, and caress the distant hills and icy mountains gently with a hand. When this came out, he had to publish a whole book of explanations what he meant. So, World War I was over, then World War II came and went by, and after that, Yugoslavia entered this period of peace and tranquility, and this brings me to this literary great, Nobel Prize winner of 1961, by the name of Ivo Andrić. His books, unlike Crnjanski's, are still in print in the US, historic novels of great value. And this poem, actually, I did not have to translate. It's so frivolous. It consists entirely of syllabi of a name of a Greek girl he once met. So I give you Lili Lala Una. Lala Lula, Luna Lina, Ala Luna Lani Lana, Ana Lili Ula Ina, Nali Ilun Liliana. Lila Ani Ul Ulana Lani Linu Ul, Nanula Analili Nina Nana, Ila Ala Una, Nula, Alauna Lul Ilala, Alalula Lanu Lila, Nalu Nilu, Nul Ninala, Nala Una An Anila. So, moving on into the 60s. Danilo Kish is probably the best writer you never read, and you should really remedy that as soon as possible. His almost entire opus is still available in print in the US. So he was born in 35, if I remember correctly. That is true. His childhood was, of course, marked by World War II. His dad perished in Auschwitz. His writing is mostly about that, except that as a student in Belgrade in the 1960s, he allowed himself again to be lulled into this sense of, the tragedy is over, so let me talk about other things. And this song, which is named Golden Rain, talks about perils of writing a poem. Golden Rain here is a reference to, of course, Greek mythology, in which Zeus fathered Perseus by coming to his mom, Danae, in form of golden rain and impregnating her, which should probably be the original version of the golden shower. So Danilo Kish, Golden Rain. That, what happened, closely resembles a miscarriage, where between coitus and birth, the boundaries of time have been swept away and everything occurs impossibly simultaneously. A kind of weakness and also strength, something like an epiphany and also blasphemy, and annunciation or an advent of a phenomenon unknown, like uncertainty itself, like exhaustion everlasting, and also like an unyielding tension, like a focal point in which controversies intersect, like a golden rain heavy with the sperm of God. That hour is honored by my friends, who then sense, I suppose, my power almost divine, and it's recognized in fear by my sister and my wife, because I guess it reminds them of their own miscarriages and of their own pains of labor. So they leave me by myself. My wife retreats into a burdened, equivocal silence, while my sister tiptoes around and absent-mindedly brings out a wash bowl full of lukewarm water, a bit confused, a bit scared, with the naive, transparent excuse that I might need it, that bowl with water, in case I threw up lightheaded, or if I needed to dampen my brow or wash my feet. So maybe I'll be told that monster was born, that poem, because its arrival came without a lightning bolt, or an obligatory scream of motherhood or fatherhood, or a comet with its tail, although I must say the silence was all-worthy. And then a monstrosity came into this world, my son, or father, or twin brother, devil should know, a slimy wart toad, a coil of snake, blind worm lizard fish, a bloody coil with no eyes or face, tadpole, wingless bird, a suicidal bird, a sex sputum, a preemie of blood, a monster of mind in no way like me but so akin to my blood, conceived in my pleura, a phenomenon written about in medical literature, an abomination kept on a shelf in formalin, in fruit of sinful incestuous love, a seed of Oedipus in statu nascendi, a fatal mistake of a god infallible, a freak of vainglory, a jellyfish, amoeba, a tasteless admixture, a self-product of onanism, an embryo of agony, a hybrid of black blood and leafy greens. And it could have been, judging by the harbingers, a song of songs, a winged Nike, the right arm of Venus de Milo, the smile of Gioconda, Christ, Moses, a human god. And why is it my fault that I cannot bear fruit, not even fruit divine, for 184 days in my blood, in my abdomen? And what else could I have done but throw it into toilet and flush it away as if nothing had happened? You can't think I was crazy enough to preserve it in a jar, in spirits. This poem, any poem, is a sin enough. My sister takes away the bowl, her face petrified as if a dead man is in the house. My wife, without a word, brings out a white shirt. Thank you. Could you tell that he was my favorite writer? So now, another fast forward. So after 46 years of peace and relative prosperity, Yugoslavia decided to make another mark in history by imploding into a bloody civil war. So my generation, raised to fervently believe in a better future, was suddenly forced to confront it. And different people did it in different ways, but my friend, Jelena Nelević, a very talented poet, did it by pondering the cycling of matter and in form of diapers and death. A few months before my birthday, I start preparations for my death. I know it will come. By then, at least 10,000 people full of life will die, replaced by infants and millions of full diapers, which will take centuries to melt away in illegal garbage dumps. Earth will absorb ingredients from corpses and from the waste of tiny growing bodies. All of it will then travel deep and reach the pristine water, which will then fluorinate and drink. We who got out of diapers oh so long ago and hope that death is still so far away. And the last poem, probably written this or last year, is by a renowned Croatian writer. Her name is Olja Savicevic. By the way, if you come to me and you are able to pronounce any of these people's names, you'll get some percentage of the book. So, Olja Savicevic is an acclaimed novelist, playwright, and poet. Her novels and poetry are in print in the US, and I encourage you to read her work. In this poem, which I discovered only recently, she actually seems to have found an ability to gaze into the future. The poem is called The 22nd Century. Those clever kids of ours already saved the earth from people, death from the living, faith from religions. They reintroduced flavor into foods, separated justice from truth and truth from exactness. In addition, and just as important, they separated for all eternity love from duty and joy of love from reproduction. Every girl on a scooter, every boy and his dog were prioritized over the state and nation. Also, they found, which wasn't really a problem, a way for everyone to have a roof over their heads, to eat fruits and vegetables and have a right to quality healthcare. The best that we can do for ourselves, those children are saying, children that are just being born, is to make sure that especially the lazy ones, specifically the stupid, particularly the weak, and above all the incompetent, are provided for. Otherwise, what's the point of all our talent and knowledge and our passion for achievement and our strength and skill? Those sage kids of ours, as if they're not ours at all, opened up all borders, and the crazy age of unlocked doors was upon us again, ensuring plenty of time for reading, free evenings for movie-going, and modest travel funds for everyone. They converted all the imperative mode statements into just two: do not judge, and don't be an asshole. They did all that without dictatorship, assuming, of course, that good education is not dictatorial. Their prisons resemble schools, and what can be achieved through science is left to poetry. What processes precipitated all those changes, and did it take more blood than usual for the world to finally become normal, for life to finally become worth living? We shall never find out, for we shall never see the 22nd century. All we have time for is learn from those children who aren't even born yet. Find time to plant a lemon tree in a square and watch it grow no matter the consequences. Tell strangers that are welcome, lose track of our enemies, and grow old among friends. We do still find time to read 100 or so books, burst into a song about 50 times, and although it seems hopeless, vote always for the left. We might still even find time to meet and kiss in front of everyone. What do you think? If we did all that, would the 22nd century come any sooner? Thank you.